In exercise 9, we're going to graph the function f of x equals cosine of x minus pi over 2 in parentheses. Here we're using function notation. F of x is just the same as saying y. And we're going to think of this as a transformation of the cosine function. So we can start with just the y equals cosine x graph that we know. And then we're going to shift horizontally, right? Because we were subtracting inside parentheses. And you have to remember, if you see subtraction inside parentheses, we're going to shift to the right, actually in the positive direction, by pi over 2 units. So we're shifting that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a cosine graph that I'm going to write in red. So this is not my final result. Cosine is 1 at 0. We go down to 0 at pi over 2 at pi. We're negative 1 at 3 pi over 2. We're back to 0. And at 2 pi, right there, we're to 1. And that pattern continues. And I'm going to draw a little bit in the negative direction also. I guess this is actually negative pi right there. So that's a portion of y equals cosine x. And now what we want to do is we want to take each point on this graph and shift pi over 2 to the right. And so this point is going to shift over to this position. This pi over 2 point on the x-axis is going to shift over to here. This point will shift over to here. 3 pi over 2, we're going to shift over to 2 pi. And so on and so forth down the line. I guess I go right off my grid. Well, I can squeeze that one on. And also at negative pi over 2, that point is going to shift over to the origin 0, 0. This point will shift to here. So the curve that I get is going to look like this. And the blue graph should look familiar. Of course, it's given by f of x as cosine of x minus pi over 2. But notice our final graph is the same as y equals sine x, right? It's just the sine graph. Thus, what we can see here sine x is equal to cosine of x minus pi over 2 for all x. We can actually see that equivalence from the graph we just drew. And you probably suspected that all along. The graphs of sine and cosine are so similar, we can think of either one as being a horizontal shift of the other.